I never thought I would be the guy telling this type of story. I am a 32-year-old software developer from Boston, with a decent job, good friends, and what I thought was a solid relationship. For 2 years I was with Natalie, a 28-year-old marketing executive, who I believed was the one, smart, ambitious, and beautiful. Last month we were at an upscale restaurant when she received a text that changed her entire demeanor. Little did I know I was about to hear the words that would shatter my world. I was easily replaceable, and she had been settling for me all along. If you have ever felt undervalued by someone you loved, stick around and let me know in the comments where you are watching from. Drop a like if you have ever had to rebuild your self-worth after someone tore it down. I met Natalie at a friend's rooftop party in summer 2021. The sunset was painting the Boston skyline in shades of orange and pink, and she stood out immediately. She wore a simple blue dress and was laughing with such genuine joy that I could not help but be drawn to her. When our mutual friend Brian introduced us, I was immediately struck by her confidence and quick wit. She worked in marketing for a tech company and had this passionate way of talking about her work that was captivating. After exchanging numbers, I waited 3 days before texting her, trying not to seem too eager. We agreed to meet at a small Italian restaurant downtown for our first date. The connection was immediate and intense. She told me about growing up in Connecticut with parents who pushed her to excel her college years studying business and her ambitious career plans. I shared stories about my childhood in suburban Massachusetts, my journey into software development, and my dream of eventually creating my own tech startup. The first few months were everything a new relationship should be. We explored the city together, finding hidden bookstores and coffee shops. We took weekend trips to Cape Cod and spent lazy Sundays watching movies and ordering takeout. She fit seamlessly into my friend group, and I got along well with hers. The physical chemistry between us was undeniable, and emotionally I felt understood in a way I never had before. 8 months into our relationship, when my lease was ending, Natalie suggested we move in together. Her apartment was closer to both our workplaces and much nicer than mine. It seemed like the natural next step. The day I moved in, she surprised me with a home-cooked dinner and a key with a small compass keychain saying, "Now we can always find our way home to each other." Everything looked perfect on the surface, but there were small signs I chose to ignore. Occasionally, when stressed about work, Natalie would become cold and dismissive. She would make small comments about my clothing choices, or suggest I should be more ambitious with my career. I chalked it up to her perfectionist nature and told myself it came from a place of caring. After all, no relationship is perfect, right? I was too invested in what we were building together to acknowledge these red flags. As our relationship progressed, I found myself increasingly invested in supporting Natalie through everything. When her company underwent restructuring and her position was at risk, I stayed up with her night after night, helping her prepare presentations and update her resume. I listened to her rehearse arguments for why she deserved not just to keep her job but to be promoted. When she succeeded, I felt almost as proud as she did, believing our partnership had helped her achieve her goals. For her 29th birthday, I secretly planned a weekend trip to a coastal town in Maine. I saved for months to book a room at a historic bed and breakfast with ocean views. I arranged for her favorite flowers in the room reservations at an exclusive seafood restaurant and a private sunset sailing trip. When I revealed the surprise, her eyes lit up with genuine joy, and in that moment, all the planning and expense felt completely worth it. I supported all her career ambitions, even when it meant sacrificing my own time and needs. There were countless nights when I ordered dinner and kept it warm while she worked late. I rearranged my schedule to attend networking events, as her +1 standing patiently by her side while she made valuable connections. I listened to her practice presentations and gave feedback, believing that her success was our success. Natalie had a complicated relationship with her family, particularly her father, who had always been critical of her choices. When she mentioned wanting to try reconnecting with them, I encouraged her and helped her craft an email to break the ice. I went with her for that first tense dinner with her parents, holding her hand under the table when her father started asking pointed questions about her career. After several such dinners, their relationship began to improve, and Natalie thanked me for giving her the courage to rebuild those bridges. 6 months ago, I took Natalie to meet my parents in their suburban home. My mom immediately pulled out embarrassing childhood photos, and my dad insisted on showing Natalie his prized vegetable garden. They adored her instantly, and on the drive home my mom texted me, "She is special, Cole. Do not let this one go." That night, lying next to Natalie in bed, I began to imagine proposing within the year, picturing our wedding, our home, even the children we might have together. I was all in completely invested in our future together. The first real cracks in our relationship began to appear about 4 months ago. Natalie started making more frequent comments about my appearance. What began as helpful suggestions became outright criticism. "That shirt makes you look washed out," or "Have you thought about getting a more stylish haircut?" Something less boring. When I bought new clothes following her advice, she would shrug and say they were an improvement, but not quite there. Around this time, I also noticed Natalie becoming increasingly obsessed with social media. She would spend hours scrolling through Instagram, commenting on the seemingly perfect lives of influencers and her more successful friends. She began posting more about her own life, but I noticed I was appearing in fewer and fewer of her photos. When I asked about it casually, she said, "My personal brand is important for my career advancement. I need to curate it carefully." Natalie also developed a habit of comparing our relationship to those of her friends. "Jessica and Tyler just bought that beautiful brownstone in Beacon Hill. His financial planning practice is really taking off." Or "Madison's boyfriend surprised her with a trip to Paris, just because it was Tuesday." Each comparison contained an implicit criticism. I was not as financially successful as Tyler, not as romantic as Madison's boyfriend. I tried to step up my game, but the goalposts seemed to keep moving. When I received a significant promotion at work, I was excited to share the news with Natalie. I had been working toward this for over a year, putting in extra hours and taking on challenging projects to prove myself. When I told her over dinner, her response was lukewarm at best. "That is great, but is that really as high as you want to aim? Jason from my office became a CTO at 30. What should have been a celebration became another reminder that I was not quite good enough. In the last month of our relationship, I noticed Natalie texting someone named Alex frequently. Her face would light up when messages came through, and she would turn her phone away from me to respond. When I asked who she was texting so much, she casually said, "Just a coworker. We are collaborating on a big project." I wanted to trust her, so I pushed away the nagging doubt, even when she started having more work dinners and team meetings that ran late into the evening. For our second anniversary, I made reservations at an expensive restaurant downtown that Natalie had been hinting about wanting to try. I spent half my paycheck on the dinner and a pair of sapphire earrings that matched her eyes. I thought the evening would help us reconnect and rekindle what had been gradually fading between us. I was wrong in ways I could never have imagined. The night of our anniversary remains crystal clear in my memory despite how much I wish I could forget it. We were seated at a corner table with a view of the Boston skyline. Natalie wore a black dress I had never seen before, her hair up in an elegant style. She looked stunning, but distant. Throughout the meal, she kept checking her phone, smiling at texts and typing quick responses. When our dessert arrived, a chocolate souffle we were supposed to share, I presented her with the small jewelry box. "Happy anniversary," I said, watching expectantly as she opened it. She glanced at the earrings and gave a tight smile. "These are nice, Cole. Thank you." She closed the box without trying them on and slipped it into her purse. I tried to ignore the disappointment settling in my chest. After dinner, we walked home along the waterfront. The spring air was cool, and the lights reflected off the harbor. I tried to take her hand, but she crossed her arms, creating a physical barrier between us. "We need to talk," she said, suddenly stopping to face me. Her expression was cold and determined in a way that sent immediate dread through me. "I have been doing a lot of thinking about us," she continued, her voice detached, as if discussing a business decision. "The truth is, Cole, I have been settling for you. I thought you would eventually become the kind of partner I need, but you have not. You are easily replaceable." The words hit me like physical blows. I stood there stunned into silence as she continued. "Alex and I have been getting close. He is a director at the company going places. There is an ambition and drive in him that you just do not have. He understands the lifestyle I want. You have been cheating on me. I finally managed to ask, my voice barely audible. Emotionally, yes, she admitted, without a trace of remorse. Nothing physical has happened yet, but it will. I owe it to myself to be with someone who matches me, who challenges me. You have always been comfortable with mediocrity. Chapter. Your average job, your basic fashion sense, your lack of social connections that matter. As she listed my shortcomings, I felt my world collapsing. Every insecurity I had ever had was being confirmed by the person I loved most. The waterfront path, the night, everything around me seemed to blur, as her cruel words cut deeper than any physical pain I had ever experienced. I barely remember the walk back to our apartment. Natalie maintained a cold distance, occasionally checking her phone, completely detached from the emotional devastation she had just caused. When we arrived home, she immediately went to the bedroom and emerged 20 minutes later with an overnight bag. "I am going to stay with a friend for a few days while you process this," she announced, as if she were doing me a favor. "We can talk about logistics for moving out when things have calmed down." After she left, I stood in the middle of our living room, surrounded by the life we had built together, now revealed as a complete lie. I could not bring myself to go into our bedroom. Instead, I collapsed onto the couch, staring at the ceiling as her words played on repeat in my mind. Easily replaceable. Settling for you. Mediocrity. Each repetition was a fresh wound. I did not sleep that night. How could I? I alternated between sobbing and feeling completely numb. At one point, I found myself in the bathroom, staring at my reflection, searching for all the flaws Natalie had apparently seen all along. Was my jawline too weak? My ambitions too small? My personality too boring? I had never felt so utterly worthless. Around 4 in the morning, I remembered we shared a laptop for streaming movies and managing household accounts. Almost robotically, I opened it and discovered Natalie had forgotten to log out of her email. I knew I should respect her privacy, but in my pain, I clicked on her inbox. There they were, dozens of exchanges with Alex going back nearly 3 months. They discussed weekend getaways, they wanted to take restaurants, they wanted to try, and worse, they laughed about me. "Cole is a nice guy, but nice does not get you the corner office Alex had written," Natalie replied, "or the waterfront penthouse I have my eye on." As the sun rose, I watched our neighbors heading off to work while I sat motionless, my self-worth completely shattered. Every memory of our relationship was now tainted, reframed through the lens of her deception. Had she ever really loved me? Or had I simply been convenient until someone better came along? The thought that I had been living a lie for months, perhaps longer, was unbearable. The next 3 days passed in a blur of misery. I called in sick to work, unable to focus on code when my life had just crashed like a failed program. I barely ate, barely showered. Friends texted checking in, but I could not bring myself to explain what had happened. How do you tell people that the woman you loved had deemed you completely unworthy? On the 3rd day, Natalie returned to collect more of her belongings. She used her key and seemed surprised to find me still on the couch, unshaven and disheveled. "You should really open some windows in here," she said, wrinkling her nose. "It smells like someone died." I looked at her, this woman I had loved so deeply, now a stranger with a familiar face. "Something did," I replied. She rolled her eyes. "Do not be so dramatic, Cole. People break up all the time. You will find someone more on your level eventually." As she packed more clothes and personal items, she casually mentioned she would be moving in with Alex at the end of the month. "His place is in that new luxury building on the waterfront. The views are amazing." After she left, I finally called my friend Brian, the one who had introduced us. His hesitation when I told him about the breakup said everything. "You knew, did not you?" I asked. "You knew she was unhappy that she was seeing Alex." Brian's sigh confirmed it. "We all saw the way she talked to you at group gatherings, man. How she would check out when you were speaking. Some of us noticed her and Alex getting cozy at Jessica's birthday party last month. I wanted to say something, but you did not." I finished for him, Other friends gave similar responses when I finally reached out. Everyone had seen what I had been too in love to notice. The humiliation added another layer to my pain. By the end of the week, I had reached rock bottom. I had not been to work in 5 days. My phone was filled with concerned messages I could not answer. The apartment was a mess of takeout containers and unwashed clothes. I had never been this person before, someone who could not function, who had allowed another person to determine their entire sense of self-worth. Then my brother Jackson showed up unannounced, having driven 3 hours from New York after Brian called him concerned. He took one look at me at the apartment and said, "Jesus, Cole, this is not you." Jackson did not coddle me. After forcing me to shower and change into clean clothes, he sat me down for the toughest conversation I needed to hear. "This woman has already taken 2 years of your life," he said bluntly. "How many more days are you going to give her? You have always been the smart one, the dependable one, the guy who had his shit together. Where is that guy?" "That guy was a fraud," I mumbled. Natalie made that clear. Jackson grabbed my shoulders. "Listen to yourself. You are giving one person, one deeply flawed, shallow person, the power to define who you are. Since when does Cole Anderson let anyone else write his story?" His words broke through the fog of self-pity that had enveloped me. For the first time in days, I felt a flicker of something other than despair, a small spark of anger. Not just at Natalie, but at myself for surrendering my self-respect so completely. While Jackson cleaned up the apartment, I found myself looking through a drawer of Natalie's things she had not yet collected. There was a journal I had never read out of respect for her privacy. Now, with that barrier broken, I opened it. The entries from the past 6 months told a clear story. She had been comparing me to wealthier, more connected men for a long time. One entry read, "Cole got me flowers today. Sweet, but predictable. Tyler got Jessica tickets to New York Fashion Week. That is the kind of partner who understands ambition." Another entry about a dinner with my parents. "Nice family, but so suburban and ordinary. I need someone with connections to the right people, not gardening tips and photo albums." The most recent entries were about Alex and the lifestyle he represented: executive retreats and Aspen charity galas, with company CEOs, the social climbing opportunities he offered. Reading these words, something shifted inside me. The pain was still there, but now anger rose alongside it, clean, clarifying anger. I had compromised myself in 1,000 small ways to please someone who had never valued me. I had dimmed my own light trying to help her shine. Looking up, I caught my reflection in the mirror, finally recognizing myself again beneath the hurt. That was the moment I decided to reclaim my self-worth and my apartment. The transformation began with practical steps. The day after Jackson left, I called a locksmith and had the locks changed. I boxed up all of Natalie's remaining belongings and arranged to have them delivered to her office. I deleted her from all my social media accounts and changed the passwords on our shared streaming services. These small acts of reclaiming my space felt surprisingly empowering. 3 days after I changed the locks, I received the first text from Natalie. "Alex is showing some red flags. Can we talk?" I read it, felt a momentary urge to respond, then deleted it without reply. A week later came another. "I think I rushed into things with Alex. I miss our conversations." This too went unanswered. Each message I ignored made me feel stronger. I reconnected with friends I had neglected during my relationship. My college roommate Tom had been trying to get me to join his rock climbing group for years. Now I finally took him up on it. The physical challenge of scaling walls became a perfect metaphor for my recovery. Finding handholds one at a time, trusting my own strength, focusing only on the next move up, rather than looking down at how far I could fall. At work, I threw myself into a challenging project, developing security software. My focus and dedication caught the attention of senior management. 6 weeks after the breakup, I was assigned to lead a small team, a recognition that would have had me rushing home to tell Natalie before. Now the accomplishment was purely my own and all the more satisfying for it. Perhaps most importantly, I started seeing a therapist. Dr. Warren helped me understand the dynamics that had allowed me to accept such diminishing treatment. You are not responsible for her actions, she told me in one session, but you are responsible for the boundaries you set and maintain. What boundaries will you establish in future relationships? It was a question that stayed with me, guiding my recovery. As weeks turned into months, I began to recognize my own value again, not tied to anyone else's assessment, but inherent to who I was as a person. 2 months after our breakup, the texts from Natalie became increasingly frequent and desperate. I made a huge mistake. Can we please just talk? I miss you so much. I maintained my silence, focusing on rebuilding my life without her. Through our mutual friends whom I still saw occasionally, I learned that Alex had dumped Natalie after just 6 weeks. Apparently, he had been seeing multiple women and had never intended for their relationship to be exclusive. The luxury lifestyle she had been so eager to access had come with fine print she had not bothered to read. Then one rainy Tuesday evening, there was a knock at my door. When I looked through the peephole, I saw Natalie standing there, mascara running down her cheeks, hair damp from the rain. For a moment, I considered not answering. But a part of me knew I needed this confrontation for complete closure. "Cole," she said. When I opened the door, her voice breaking. "Thank you for seeing me. I have been trying to reach you." I did not invite her in, simply stood in the doorway. "What do you want?" "Natalie, Alex was a mistake," she blurted out. "He was just using me. He never cared about me the way you did." The tears flowed freely now. I was stupid and shallow, and I threw away the best relationship I ever had. "Please, can we just talk? I know I can make it up to you." Looking at her, I felt a strange calm. 2 months ago, I would have done anything to hear these words. Now they stirred nothing but a distant pity. The power she had held over me was gone. "It was never about Alex," I said quietly. "It was about how easily you could discard someone who loved you, how little you valued what we had built." "I know that now," she pleaded. I was confused, caught up in some fantasy. "Please, Cole. No one knows me like you do. No one cares for me like you do." In that moment, I realized she had not changed at all. Her words were still about what I could do for her, how I could meet her needs. There was no recognition of me as a person with my own value. "I am sorry, Natalie, but there is nothing left to discuss. I wish you well, but this conversation is over." I gently closed the door on her protests, feeling not cruelty but the peace of having finally let go. A week after Natalie showed up at my apartment, I texted her suggesting we meet for coffee. Not to rekindle anything, but to have the closure conversation we both needed. We met at a neutral cafe, far from our old neighborhood haunts. She arrived looking more like the Natalie I had first met, less made up, more authentic. For a moment, seeing her brought back a flash of our good times together, but it passed, quickly replaced by the calm certainty that I was doing the right thing. "I've been doing a lot of thinking." She began, reaching across the table for my hand, which I subtly moved away. "We were so good together, Cole." Alex was flashy, but hollow. There was no substance there, no real connection like we had. "Natalie," I interrupted gently, "I did not ask you here to try again. I wanted to give us both proper closure." Her expression fell. "But I thought, I have changed, Cole. These past weeks have been a wake-up call. I know now what really matters." "The problem is, I know what matters too now," I explained. "And I have realized that someone who could say the things you said to me, who could treat me with such disregard, is not someone I can build a life with." "Those were just words," she protested. I was confused, influenced by social media and friends showing off their perfect lives. "They were not just words," I said firmly. "They were a window into how you truly saw me. You did not value me when you had me, Natalie. You were settling, remember. I deserve someone who chooses me enthusiastically, not someone who comes back because their first choice did not work out." Tears welled in her eyes. "So that is it. 2 years together and you are just throwing it away." The irony of her statement was not lost on me. I am not throwing anything away. I am honoring myself enough to walk away from someone who could not see my worth. That is growth, not rejection. She broke down, then sobbing in the middle of the cafe. I felt compassion for her pain, but also a strange sense of peace. I paid for our coffees, wished her well, and walked away feeling truly free for the first time since our breakup. The months that followed were transformative. I focused on rebuilding not just my confidence but my entire self-image. I realized how much I had shaped myself to fit Natalie's expectations and desires. Now I was rediscovering who Cole Anderson really was and what he wanted from life. I developed deeper friendships based on genuine mutual respect. Tom and the rock climbing group became a solid support system. We took a weekend trip to New Hampshire to climb actual mountains rather than indoor walls. Something I would never have done while with Natalie, who preferred luxury hotels to tents and sleeping bags. Standing on that summit, breathing the clear air, I felt an expansion in my chest that had nothing to do with the altitude. At work, the security software project I led became a significant success for the company. My boss called me into his office one Friday afternoon, and I expected a simple congratulations. Instead, he offered me a substantial promotion with a team of my own, and a salary increase that would have impressed even Natalie. The difference was now I valued it for what it represented about my skills and contributions, not for how it would look to someone else. Through friends, I met Sarah, a pediatric nurse with a quick laugh and kind eyes. We started slowly, just coffee and walks along the Charles River. She was genuine in a way that was refreshing after Natalie's calculated persona. When she complimented me, it was specific and thoughtful. About my patients, explaining technology to her, or the way I remembered details about her siblings. We were taking things at a measured pace, both aware that real connections should develop naturally, not be forced to fit someone's timeline. 3 months after changing the locks, I decided to find a new apartment altogether. The old place held too many memories, and I wanted a fresh start. I found a smaller but brighter apartment in Cambridge, closer to the river. I furnished it entirely to my own taste, comfortable rather than trendy, with bookshelves full of the science fiction novels Natalie had deemed childish and photographs of mountain landscapes I hoped to visit someday. Looking back now 6 months after that devastating night when Natalie called me easily replaceable, I can see the painful experience as the catalyst for necessary growth. The relationship taught me lessons I might have taken decades to learn otherwise. I understand now that real love involves mutual appreciation, not settling. Two people choosing each other every day, seeing value in each other that perhaps no one else can see. Love should feel like recognition, not evaluation. It should add to your sense of self, not diminish it. I have learned the vital importance of maintaining self-respect, even within the closest relationships. The moment you start accepting disrespect as the price of love is the moment you begin losing both. Boundaries are not barriers to intimacy, but the foundations that make healthy intimacy possible. The experience has taught me to recognize genuine connection. With Sarah, conversations flow without performance or agenda. We disagree sometimes, but there is never the undertone of judgment that colored so many interactions with Natalie. I do not know where our relationship will lead, but I know it starts from a place of authentic appreciation. Perhaps most importantly, I have realized that being called replaceable led me to become irreplaceable to myself. I now understand my own value in a way I never could have while seeking validation from someone else. My worth is not determined by my partner's assessment, my job title, or my social status. It exists independently of all external measures. The words that were meant to break me became the foundation I rebuilt myself on. Sometimes the people who hurt us most give us the greatest gift, the chance to discover our true worth. I am curious. Has anyone else found strength after a relationship that made you doubt your worth? Share your experience in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, please hit the like button and subscribe to hear more journeys of self-discovery and resilience. Your support means everything, and I hope my story helps someone else realize they are not as replaceable as they might have been told. Thank you for listening, and remember, the people who truly value you will never make you question your worth.